So tonight we're looking at part 3 of essential oils, history and use, entitled The Essentials. So first of all, just a reminder that everything we talk about here is informational and educational in nature, and that they're just simply more health tools that you can use for your wellness journey. It's not medical advice, and that you need to always do your own due diligence in whatever you are presented from anywhere. And that while attempts are made to make this complete, it's not exhaustively comprehensive. So we're going to talk tonight a little bit about safety with essential oils, and just some things to keep in mind when embarking on a modality or use that is not familiar to you, or even if it is, just some things to keep in mind. Any new food product or treatment should be carefully introduced. And that means that, just doing it with ease, easing into it, and being aware and doing your research prior to using whatever treatment it might be. So natural, that term does not necessarily mean safe. Heroin is not safe. Opium is addictive. They're natural. They've been sometimes processed and refined, but natural is not synonymous with safe. So just something to keep in mind. There are dangerous natural things, and individual variability and allergies between individuals are also something that one person's safe thing may be another person's harmful thing. So that's just something to pay attention to when you begin using anything. Just pay attention for potential allergic reactions. Keep in mind that essential oils are concentrated materials, and they can heighten allergic reactions if you happen to have an allergy that is present for a certain thing. That can become more accentuated because of the concentrated nature of the compounds that are present. Aromatherapy, topical application, or ingestion. So some people are allergic to smells. Some people are very sensitive to smells, perfumes and things like that. Skin allergies or reactions, and even systemic from taking it in orally. You also want to watch for things like respiratory distress, asthma, or bronchial closures, wheezing, things like that, and skin reactions or eruptions. If noted changes are seen, halt the use of whatever it was you most recently introduced to help prevent any further progression of a reaction that may have occurred. Some things that can help with this is doing your due diligence ahead of time on making sure that what you're doing is appropriately done, as well as whatever you're using is appropriately used. And a health advisor, someone who's familiar with the territory, can be very helpful in helping you understand reactions, symptoms, cleansing responses, etc., that can occur in any given situation. So potential indications for specific oils. So sometimes there can be medical or medication interactions. This is a classic thing with things like grapefruit. For example, in the food world, it's synergistic and can accentuate a medication's effectiveness and synergy. So it has to be very, very careful in utilizing citrus and grapefruit in particular. But some oils have greater potential reactions with other medications, and just be aware of that and look for labeling that indicates that. It can actually promote certain conditions like increased blood pressure perhaps, or decreased blood pressure, for example. So not all oils have the same profiles that they can activate. Start using them slowly. You don't want to go overboard too quickly. Dilute in a carrier oil before topical application. There are some oils that can be utilized in a way that's referred to as neat, which is just straight onto the skin, something like lavender. Other things are hot and would burn if not used in a carrier oil. We'll talk more about carrier oils down the road. But basically it dilutes its intensity, spreads it out, and allows it to be therapeutic without causing undue discomfort. Typically oils aren't going to blister or burn in that regard, but they can be uncomfortable and hot, so to speak. So some indicates that you should avoid them if you're pregnant. So like some plant things, some medications, you want to make sure that you avoid them if you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant. It can disrupt that. And then research all the aspects of any oil that you think that you might be interested in before just going ahead and launching into it. So in general, avoid the eyes, ears, and nose for use of oils. After using citrus oils topically, you want to make sure you avoid sun exposure for at least 12 hours because there are skin sensitivities that citrus in particular can cause reactions to. And there's other plants that do that as well. You want to dilute oils, especially for children, for sensitive skin when you're using them topically. So one, for example, is fractionated coconut oil. And that's a specific type of coconut oil because you know that coconut oil is a saturated oil that is solid at room temperature. When it's been fractionated, it stays liquid at room temperature. So essentially there's a liquid fraction and a solidifying fraction, and they've selected for the fluid fraction. And then make sure, again, that you research the safety and use well before using. Some additional safety factors, you want to make sure of the quality of the oils. So impure or altered oils can increase the reaction potential. And there's some interesting terms that are used that just need to be understood for their actual meaning. And as you research them, just understand what the territory indicates. So there's something referred to as pure oils, there are authentic oils, there are genuine oils. So let's talk about those. So a pure oil or purity in oil could be pure, but distilled wrongly. So if it's distilled wrongly, it's not going to have the therapeutic effect that it has been claimed or noticed in a properly distilled oil. Or it could be from plant material that is substandard, from a variety that doesn't have the same therapeutic benefits as the one that's been researched. It could have chemical residues or concentrates in them if they're from a non-organic source. So it could be pure oil but still have some additional components in them, despite the purity label or claim. Distillation can magnify inferior qualities. So it's best to know as best you can your supplier, where you're getting your oils from. You should have a reputation that stands up. Proper distillation and extraction methods using superior plant material without added plant materials, no weeds, no other things. If it's from the flowers, it should be from the flowers and not from the stems. And then make sure it's from an organic source, so you're not having herbicides and pesticides that are potential contaminants. Authentic. What does authentic mean when referring to oil? So authentic means that the oil composition is that which is stated on the label. And that's important. You don't want to have something that's inauthentic. It shouldn't be a mixture of plant oils, unless it's a blend. So sometimes there are blends that are specified. They can have some synergistic effects, and they should be duly noted on the label. There shouldn't be any intrusion of oils from adjacent species or weeds. So the left-hand picture shows a nice field of lavender that's exclusively lavender. There's been a lot of care and work done to make it that way, cultivation and care, especially if it's organic, so you don't have a mixed field like on the right, which has some weeds in there as well that are going to be potentially contaminating with cross-sourced plant material when collected. I've seen some suppliers who actually do their harvesting by hand, and that helps to make the process more selective, but it also adds intensity to the cultivation and cost to the end product. But it's being done carefully and therefore has more reliable end products. Also, it should be distilled only from the specified plant parts and species. Precise oil characterization for consistent properties. So there should be some testing associated with it in order to be designated as authentic. So it's the real deal is the what authentic is alluding to. And then genuine oils. So an oil is 100% natural, no additives. It can be synthetic or natural. And something that's genuine, there could be dilutants or agents associated with it, or an oil is 100% pure. Should be exactly what's stated. So no hybrids, no mixtures or extenders in the oil, and an oil 100% complete. Something that's distilled in one step. So there's an exception to that. Typically, laying is a two-step process. All the others should be in a one distillation process, unless there are some oils that are obtained through a cold press state, but most are done through a distillation process. They shouldn't have subclassed oils, so fractionated out. There's 1, 2, and should be 3 there. So there's different densities, specific gravities of the oils if they're done in multiple stages of refining. And you want to have all those mixed together in their complete form. You don't want to have them separated and fractionated out, because you may have fractionated out the actual therapeutic quality, or you may intensify it and have a different reaction than anticipated. Another thing that's referred to is oil potency. Oils are most concentrated and potent plant components. So when you do the distillation process, you have a very concentrated outcome or product from that. The climate can have an effect on oil potency. The soil it is grown in, nutrients, its nutrition, and various stresses can affect the potency of the end product. So it's well known that there's nutritional data for all fruits and vegetables and plants that we eat. Interestingly enough, most of that data was actually analyzed in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, around in that era. And today, if they were going to do that same analysis again, they would find that the nutrient density of the plants we're eating today, it has significantly changed, unless you're actually in the organic arena. And even some of that probably is going to be different, because there is a phenomenon known as empty harvest. As you continue to pull away the nutrition year after year after year of growing food, you diminish the nutrients that are in the soil if there's no replenishment of them. So there could be distinct differences between a product today than when it was tested 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Making sure that the consistency and potency is based on a uniform rearing in the wild. So a wild type, essentially, type of a product. And most testing has been done on wild type, wild harvested, wild crafted components, as opposed to high intensity, high quantity farming methods. So there's different types of oils that are on the market that one may encounter. There are altered or synthetic oils, and these are created synthetically in the lab. They're not naturally sourced. They're actually made in a laboratory. They may have a scent that is that of and hinting of the oil that you're looking for, but it doesn't have the whole complexity that's present when it's just derived from a plant distillation, because it may just have a part of it. God-derived synergy in plants cannot be duplicated. And that's true for any organic or plant-based molecule. They can't be reliably duplicated, and that's very complex. So an example of that in the regular nutritional world is vitamin C, the vitamin C complex versus the ascorbic acid. So ascorbic acid is the shell, and the vitamin C complex is all of its subfactors and cofactors. So the diagram on the left shows the synthetic ascorbic acid. It has the same chemical formula as what is known as the natural ascorbic acid or vitamin C, but their appearance is much different, even though the chemical formula is the same. So the middle picture shows the ascorbic acid shell, which is where they get the derivation of the chemical formula. But inside of that, you have other components. You have some various complexes, P factors, J factors, K factors, tyranase. Those are factors that when they make commercial ascorbic acid in its pure crystalline form, they're missing those cofactors. It's just the ascorbic acid. When you get a vitamin C complex, acerola cherry, vitamin C from rose hips, etc., from the Australian bush plum, those are full, and citrus, for example, those are full complexes, and those are going to be bioactive. Interestingly enough, ascorbic acid, commonly known as vitamin C, will not prevent connective tissue disorders of vitamin C deficiency. Scurvy is the classic example of that. vitamin C ascorbic acid on its own won't prevent scurvy, but the complex does because it has those other factors. And that's true for other things too. The vitamin E molecule is shown on the right as an example of the difference between synthetic and naturally derived within the nutritional world. And the same true statement holds true for the essential oil world. So natural/pure oils are another class that are out there, and they're better quality than the synthetic. They're still over processed, and in that processing, they can lose their healing properties. It's actually the most common type of essential oil that's sold are the quotes natural or pure oils. Pure and natural have lots of label loopholes. So those terms have loopholes. A 100% pure or 100% natural label isn't a guarantee of quality. So an example of that is lavender. It's often cut with a non-therapeutic component called lavandin. And the label on the lower left there, you can see it says lavender, 100% pure. When you go and look at the ingredients list, it says 100% pure lavender oil. And then you see a name for the botanical name for lavender, one of the species, plus a lavandin. So they've actually cut it with that, and it is less potent than it would have been in its pure form. Pure also allows for up to 75% vegetable oil as a thinning agent, essentially, versus the 25% essential oil. So that's U.S. law. So U.S. law allows pure to label only a 5% essential oil solution. That's pretty crazy. So the lower little bottle there says both on it, pure and natural on its label. So just want to pay attention to those designations. While they sound good, that doesn't necessarily guarantee their quality. There's also oils out there referred to as therapeutic grade, and these are typically steam distilled. They're unchanged or unadulterated. TG is often how you see it labeled, therapeutic grade. It's actually an unregulated terminology. It's defined by the company that uses the label. And there are a number of companies that use therapeutic grade. I think it's a way to try to differentiate themselves from non-therapeutic grade, but it doesn't have a third-party verification process associated with it. The companies can have very rigorous testing, and many do. But if it's not organic, it can potentially contain those herbicides and pesticides from the growing process. Even if it's not carefully wildcrafted, that could be the case. So therapeutic grade is a designation that can be helpful in knowing how or what you would be using, but just understand that you need to go by the oil's actual use and the reputation, the good reputation of a company, and not just go by a label. So certified organic essential oils are really the highest grade essential oil. They have the greatest healing properties associated with them. They have superior smell, taste, and texture or feel properties versus conventionally raised and farmed sources for the plant material. Typically a 2 to 4 times higher price point because there's a lower amount that's available. Therapeutic grade has no testing organization associated with it. The higher price also typically comes along with a low supply of some of the different organically raised, certified organic plant material. So there's the kind of the tendency to go for the lower price point and end up falling into the conventional line and having the potential contamination of herbicides and pesticides and lower grade oils just due to other various factors. You can, certified as essential or organic essential oils are verified for their composition. So there's 2 different organizations, the ISO and the French organization, the AFNOR, but they aren't specific to the oils or their specific quality. It's just to their makeup. Ethical companies use high internal standards as well as composition authenticators. So just some things to bear in mind as you do your research and are seeking a source that best fits the program that you have in mind. So ways to assess the integrity of an essential oil and its therapeutic value and potency. Number one, kind of in review here, has the oil been tested? So there's ISO and there's the AFNOR, but those testing mechanisms are gas chromatography and mass spectrometry. So those basically tell you that the oil that's there is what it is, and they can base that on a reference guide, and it's basically verifies that what is stated to be there is there. Basically, is a chemical analysis of the oil's makeup. The gas chromatography essentially fingerprints the oil and can spot any additives that might be in it. Mass spectrometry, MS, indicates the presence and amount of the therapeutic qualities. Both of those can test for mixed oils, or can test mixed oils, fractionated or reduced quality components, and the presence of solvents and minerals that might be in them. So we have a lot of generic bottles here, little brown bottles with no labels on them, but they could be ascertained for what is in them by using these mechanisms, gas chromatography and mass spectrometry. That'd be great in a chemistry lab. It's not something you would have at home, but something you would need to, hopefully the company that you would be purchasing from would have done that periodically on their oil to verify their integrity. Become familiar with the Latin names of the plants for the oils which are being extracted. So read the label and make sure that the label and the essential oil plant source coincide, and that it's actually from the particular plant that has the potency. There are lots of different types of lavender, for example. The angustifolia is the true lavender, and there's L. intermedia. The one we saw that was cut with lavandin back in the previous slide or two was actually a superior grade. So that essential oil was an inferior grade that had been cut, as an example. So the common names for things differ around the world, and so the botanical name is the uniform standard for naming things. So no matter what the common name is in that particular locality, if the scientific name is consistent across the board, that's the name you want to go by. So knowing those botanical names is very helpful. So you want to make sure that you're using the therapeutic grade one. Again, the therapeutic species for lavender is angustifolia, the true lavender, versus the intermedia, which has a high camphor percentage, up to 40%. So camphor actually ends up being a stimulant, whereas lavender is known for being a relaxant and for toning down the nerves, a sedative, but it would be counterproductive if you were using the lower grade oil. So you wouldn't be getting the results that you were anticipating. And that's true of anything you look at. So making sure you're having the appropriate plant material is vital. Using the cost factor as a quality indicator can be helpful. So in general, the higher priced essential oils are of a higher quality, but do your own research, do your own due diligence. Low price shouts out several different things. It's probably not sourced from the correct botanical sources. The wrong plant may be more abundant and easier to obtain, and thereby be something that a company would want to source because it is easier, more readily available, and will allow them to come in at a lower price point, but they would have a therapeutic lack in their integrity. Could be the wrong part. Could be the flowers are out of season, so you're just getting the leaves and the stems, but you're not going to have a lower potency associated with that. It may be diluted in a basic oil or extender of some kind. And low price also can mean that it has in other ways been changed, fractionated, or adulterated to extend its quantity and get more bang for their buck and not your buck. So for example, 115 milliliter bottle of lavender takes 27 square feet of lavender plants to provide the oil for it. So there's a fair bit of plant material that's going into that. 1 pound of peppermint oil, so that's approximately we looked at about 4 15-ounce bottles, 50 milliliter bottles. So there's a lot of, a pound is kind of an odd way to reference an oil, but that's how it was referenced here. But 256 pounds of leaves, peppermint oil leaves, to equal 1 pound of the oil. One 15 milliliter bottle, and the 15 milliliter bottle is a standard size of essential oil bottle. It takes 75 lemons to create that. And 1 drop of rose oil equals 60 roses of the right species. So in review, it should be organic, it should have no additives, have a slow extraction process, be housed in a dark bottle to help prevent breakdown of the components. And the Latin name should be synonymous with the components that are inside, and that there's appropriate testing along with it to make sure and verify its quality. Another thing you can rely on is your sense of smell. So smell is really a very important testing mechanism. Senses are vital testers. So an inferior oil is going to have a different taste, a different feel, smell, and look. It may take some development of those distinctions to note that, but the smell is the most obvious thing. So generally, the more intense the smell is, the more powerful and pure that oil is going to be. So some illnesses can actually kill smell or temporarily disable the smell. 2 years ago, I was sick with I wasn't certain, but I had a hunch that had an illness that was going around that had a smell killing reputation, and I got out my eucalyptus essential oil to help clear up my nasal passages, put it on my hand and put it up to my nose, and I couldn't smell a blooming thing. And I knew right then that, well, I must have what they were talking about. So that did come back, thankfully, but that would be a caveat. There are some illnesses and diseases that can disrupt smell, hopefully just temporarily. So some tips for quality. Reputation of the company, make sure they're known for quality and integrity. If possible, have third-party testing and verification of the various oils that they have in their suite of offerings. Is it certified organic, or at least wild crafted? That would be a way to ascertain or assure chemical-free nature of that from herbicides and pesticides. Is the price comparable to other quality companies? So there's more than one reputable company that's out there. Lower price may correlate with lower quality. Make sure the labeling is legitimate. The Latin name and common name are synonymous. And inquire from those who are using their oils for their effective sources. There are actually some very nice small batch oil producers that do them with integrity and in small batches, and they aren't the big guys. So you would just need to check around and see what people are getting positive effects from and not having any detrimental downsides to you. So use your nose. It can tell you a lot as well, and checking for quality.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.